welcome to Crafty Little Things. Today I'm just going to have a look at the second motif pattern in the second edition of Big and Little Crochet. I've done the motif from the first edition, which was this treble rose hexagon, which I found quite easy. It's quite big compared to what you imagine it's going to look like. Obviously if you wanted to make it smaller, then you just use a smaller hook. This uses a 4mm. Yeah, so I wasn't going to do a crochet along with this at all. I was just going to I was just trying something out really when I did my review. If you haven't seen that, then I'll put a link to that video below. Somebody commented on my review and said that they couldn't get to grips with the pattern for the hexagon, so I said I'll give it a go. I'll do a filmed attempt at it and see how I get on. So I'm going to put this one aside. I still need to sew my edges in, so it's not 100% complete, that one, but as near as you can get. So we're starting off then with the blush yarn, which is this darker pink, and we're starting with the foundation ring. So we do our slip knot. I don't know whether to actually have a different angle on this or what. Let me just put that a little bit out of the way and put other things out of the way that we don't need yet. So I'm going to do the foundation ring. So we start off with a slip knot. So if you don't know how to do a slip knot, there is a series of absolute beginners crochet videos, tutorials on my channel here. There's a playlist and it's got everything you need to know. But there are some really useful tips and whatever in these books. I'm not quite sure if it's a bit, this is why I did my series of videos, because a lot of books and tutorials, they don't show you how to start off. So it's all right them showing you all these different stitches and patterns, but if they don't show you how to get started, what's the point? So you start with a slip knot, and how I do it is I just lay the yarn over my 2 fingers, and then I just wrap it around and cross it over, hold it with my 3rd finger, then I just put my hook under the first piece of yarn and pull through the second piece, give it a twist, and then just pull it all off your fingers. And you'll see you've got a knot there, and you just pull the yarn that's attached to your ball and it'll pull that up, and that can be moved, and it's quite fluid. Don't pull it too tight because it needs to move up and down your crochet hook. Okay, so I'm going to just zoom you in a little bit more so that you can see what I'm doing. You'll have to forgive me because this is an unnatural position for me to be crocheting, but we start off, the pattern says to chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then to form a ring. So once you've changed to 6, you put your hook through your first stitch, right through the first stitch, grab some yarn and pull it through, and then you pull it through the loop on your hook, and that gives you a ring. Can you see that? There's like a circle there, and make sure you go right into the centre of that. Don't accidentally go into a stitch because that'll mess everything up. Okay, so then it says to chain 3, so you would chain 1, 2, 3, and then it says to put 2 trebles into the ring. This is UK terms, so yarn over, put your hook into the centre, grab some yarn and pull it through. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and that's a UK treble, a US double. And then do another one, so yarn over into the centre of your hook, pull some yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So now you've got a little cluster of essentially 3 treble crochets, or double in US terms, because your beginning chain 3 acts as a double crochet treble in UK terms. So the next thing we do is we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we put another 3 treble crochet into the ring. So yarn over, hook in the ring, pull some yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, hook into the ring, pull some yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, hook into the ring, pull some yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we'll chain 3 again. Just excuse me a minute, I'm just going to pull some yarn down because it's pulling a little bit. So then we do 3 more trebles into the ring. So 1, 2, 3, and then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we put 3 more trebles into the ring. 1, 2, just make sure it doesn't catch on to that first chain 3 that we did at the beginning. That's 3, and then chain 3, and we should end up with 6 clusters altogether. So this is our first cluster. You can always push things around. With cotton it's a little bit harder, with acrylic it moves a little bit easier. But we've got our first cluster there, 1, 2, 3, 4, so just move it around. Make sure what I'm doing is I'm sewing in this straggler as I go. So another set of 3, 1, 2, 3, and then chain 3, and we'll do our last set. Push it around a little bit. 1, 3, and then we chain 3, and then what we'd do, I imagine, is slip stitch the top of the first chain 3. So this first cluster, I chain 3 and 2 treble crochets, doubles in US terms, is our first cluster. So we want to go to the top of that one. So 1, 2, 3, put your hook in, grab some yarn, pull it through, and then pull it through the loop on your hook, and there you've got your first row, and you have 6 sets of clusters, and then your little corners made by those chain 3s. If you want to pull your centre in, just pull on your straggler, and there you have it. Now for the second round, you chain 3, and it says to do 2 trebles, but you're right, it doesn't say. This is the problem I think that was had, that didn't say where to do them. That's right, this is probably where someone's had a problem. So if we look at the actual picture, you'd have your chain 3. They're all going into the chain spaces by the looks of it. Chain 3 and 2 trebles. but that wouldn't work because that wouldn't, unless you turned it around. Chain, 3 chains and 2 trebles. I wouldn't do that. I'd 3 trebles, just a minute. 3 chains, 2 trebles, and then 3 trebles, 3 chains, 3 trebles into the next chain space. Right, I'm just going to put them into the chain space because that's, I think, what it means. So put 3 in there, 2 in there. So I've got that cluster of 3. Yeah, that is what it means, just doesn't say it. So put those into there, and then I'd do 3 trebles. I'd go into the next chain space. Let me just go back so that you can see what I did. So I had my chain of 3 there, had my slip stitch, and I came straight out of that into a chain of 3, and then I'm going to put 2 trebles, doubles in US terms, into this chain space here. Okay, so it seems like they're clustered together, which they will be, but it's not going to look as clustered as it does at the beginning. So I'm just going to yarn over, put my hook into the chain space, pull some yarn through, and finish off my treble, and then do it again. Okay, because what will happen is eventually I'll have another set here and 3 chain spaces separating them, so that'll be fine. It looks a little bit awkward at the minute, but it won't do at the end. So then I go straight over and I just yarn over and I put 3 into this chain space. So it's really easy because you're not having to sew into any stitches. It's much easier to sew into a chain space than into a stitch. So it's not difficult to sew into a stitch, but it's easy to sew into a chain space. So there's 3, and then I've chained 3, and then I'm going to put another 3 in the same chain space, okay, because you're expanding on this hexagon shape. So you put in the 3 in there, and now you just move to the next chain space, which is this one. Yarn over and put 3 more treble crochets, double crochets in US terms, into that space. Three. Put my yarn down there, it might help. And then I'm going to put 3 chains to make that corner, and then I'm going to put 3 treble crochet into that corner, the same space. It's a basic sort of pattern of crochet to create corners. You'd have stitches, chain spaces, stitches all in a corner space. It might just be 1 stitch, like in this one. To go around the corner we just had 1 stitch, 2 chains, 1 stitch to create the corner. Here we've got 3 stitches, 3 chains, 3 stitches to make the corner. So it depends on the pattern, but you'll usually have a series in a corner space of stitches, chains and stitches, and that's all that we've got here. So now we're going to the next chain space and we chain and we pop in 3 treble crochets, double crochets in US terms, and then we pop in 3 chain spaces and then 3 more trebles into there. have to forgive my crocheting style might look a little bit unusual. It's because my arms are like really outstretched. I'm going to have to find a more comfortable way of filming crochet. I think you need to use a smaller tripod that's sort of looking from my angle rather than looking down. So put 3 more in the next chain space and 3 chains and 3 more in that same space that you just made your last 3. It's quite a simple pattern this, but I can understand where a beginner would get lost. I mean, even I got lost because it never said where to put those, because sometimes, especially if you've done the first one, the first motif, you will crochet in from your corner into the stitches, and there were 3 stitches there that you could have crocheted into, so it could be a little bit confusing. So you should really have specified that you'd crochet into the chain space. But I think that was the only problem so far. And now we're back to the first chain space. If you look, we're getting that shape coming now really nicely. We're back to the first one, so we need to put 3, we need to make a cluster of 3 here, and then 3 chains to join to the other cluster, and that's how we'd end that first that round. I'm just going to check, I mean, I've done that without even looking at the pattern. I'm just going to check that that's what the pattern says to do. It says, yeah, do it 5 times, then 3 trebles, 3 chains, and join with a slip stitch. So 1, 2, 3 chains, and join to the top stitch of that cluster with a slip stitch. That was a bit tight. I think I went in a bit wrong there. So that's right. Slip stitch. And there we have that first little cluster, which looks fine now. Looked a bit unusual at first. Excuse the puppy. Now what we need is we need to join the slate yarn. Now you can either join the slate by just sewing this off and tying the slate on, or what you can do is what I'm going to do, and that is get your slate yarn ready. And when you chain your 3, put your hook in to do your slip stitch. Instead of slip stitching with your blush yarn, get a nice piece of your grey yarn and put it through there, and then put it through to make your slip stitch. And now that's attached now. And then what I'd do is I'd pull it all nicely together. Oh, went a bit haywire, that did. And then I'd just cut off my blush yarn and I'd tie it to the straggler of my slate yarn, just a couple of knots, and that'll give you a really nice tight connection. And then you can hold these and try, you can trim your stragglers down a little bit, and then you can hold them and try and sew them in as best as possible. Okay, right, so the next round then, join the slate to any chain 3 space. So we're in a chain 3 space. One treble into the same space, it's hard to just pop a treble in. I think what I'd do here is I'd chain 3 instead of, because you need to get up to that height. You see, we chain 3 and then I'd move to the next chain space here. If I didn't do that, what would happen is I'd do a double. It's not a good idea to do that. I'd just chain 3 instead. So I'd ignore that a little bit. And then it says 1 treble into the same space, and then 3 trebles into the next space. So it's got to be joined into a chain 3 space and not one of these spaces that's between the clusters. And then 3 into this space. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through. Doesn't make it clear that that's what you're supposed to do, but I think that's what you're supposed to do. And then we go on to make the next corner. And here we're going to put 2 treble crochets. So 1, 2 into the corner space. And then we're going to chain 1 and put 2 more in. And again, like I said before, that's that familiar pattern in crochet of making a corner. Stitches, spaces, stitches. And then we're going to repeat 3 into this space in the middle. 1, 2, 3, and then 2 trebles, double in US terms, chain 2, 1 chain, and 2 more. Alright, Lils. Puppy's going mad. Okay, so 2 and a chain and 2, and then 3 into the next space. So can you see what I'm doing here? I'm doing, hang on, let me just put this in and then I'll show you. So what you're doing is I've started off in this corner space. So these are our sort of corner spaces, the big spaces, but then we have these smaller spaces in between the corners. So we're putting 3 treble crochet into those smaller spaces, and in the corners we're putting 2, a chain 1 and another 2 to keep the corner, and that way we're working around. So it's nice lacy pattern as well. So yarn over, we're in the corner now, so we'll add a double, another double, sorry, treble if you're in the UK, a chain 1 and then another 2 trebles into that same corner space. I think the pattern just doesn't make it clear that you've got your corner spaces and your sort of the middle of your side space, if you like. So then 3 into that middle of the side space. 1, 2, again, apologies for this bizarre style of crochet. 3, and then 2. My yarn is just not pulling at all. It's just, the tensions are terrible. So I just need to, I've probably got a puppy attached to the other end of it. Let's try again. So we're in the corners. We've got 1, 2. Sorry, I dropped that stitch there. 2, chain 1, another 2. So that's just the pattern all the way around. Then I'm just going to join that with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 we started off with, rather than starting off with a treble as the pattern suggested. So now for round 4 we join blush to any of our chain 3 spaces. Well, this is crazy because now it's saying join it to any of our chain 3 spaces, but we don't have any chain 3 spaces. So that's a little bit awkward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this one through. I'm going to join it in a different way. So I'm going to pull that through and I'll sew that in later, or I'll sew in the straggler. And now we join the blush again to any chain 3 space. Well, we don't have chain 3 spaces. We have chain 1 spaces. I'm going to join it into a chain 1 space and think that the pattern's wrong. So I'll just pull it through. So our chain 1 spaces are our corner spaces, okay? So I'm just going to tie it on. There's lots of ways you can join yarn, but this is the way I'm just doing it to make it easy. And I'll just tie it to that straggler, because then what that'll do is just keep it extra strong and secure. Because this is going to be part of a blanket, the last thing you want is for it to all come falling down. So it says to any chain 3 space, but we haven't got any chain 3 spaces, so we're putting it in the chain 1 space, and then it's saying to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then treble into the chain, into the same space, which makes sense. That's what didn't make sense in the last round, and so we had to adapt that. And now it's saying into the same space. Oh, now it's saying 3 trebles into the next space twice. I think it means into here and here, so put 3 trebles in there. And then you see on your sides now, you've got your corners, and then you've got 2 spaces. Can you see that? You've got your corners, which this is calling your chain 3 spaces, but they're not, because it only told you to chain 1. And then you've got 2 spaces in between. So what it's telling you to do is put 3 in here, 3 in here, and then 2 trebles, a chain 1 and 2 trebles in each of your corners to create that corner. So it's the same as we did last time, but we're just adding in this extra 3 into this extra space we've created. So that's 1, 2, at the last corner. So I've done my 3 in the 2 spaces on the side, and now I'm just going to finish this corner off. So I just need to add in 2 more trebles and 1 chain and slip stitch into the top, and then we've got that corner. And I'm just going to finish that off, because I think then we change to the rose or whatever it was from the leftover rose from the first motif. And you can see it all coming together now. Let me just hide the stragglers underneath so that you can see the shape better. But yeah, there it is, coming together. So now that's done, we go back to the rose yarn. If you didn't notice, see my other video, I wrote on the labels what colours they are, because having to go back to them, it'd be useful to remember which was which. So for the final round then, join the rose to any 3 chain space. Again, we haven't got any 3 chain spaces, so I'm assuming they mean to a corner. So pop your hook into a corner and pull it through. Right, so it says chain 2 and then do a half treble into the same space. So a half treble is a half double in US terms, is a yarn over, hook in to that same space, pull your yarn through, you've got 3 on your hook, yarn over and just pull through all 3. It's just a slightly, it's a half stitch shorter than a treble or a double in US terms. And then it tells you to 3 half trebles into the next space 3 times. So now on each of your sides you've got 3, you've got your corner, and then you've got 3 little sections. So what it means is to half treble into each of those spaces 3 times. So yarn over, put your hook in, pull through some yarn, yarn over and pull through all 3. Yarn over, hook in, pull through all 3. Yarn over, hook in, pull through and pull through all 3. And there you have your little cluster there. Now what it's telling you to do is do that in each of those 3. So that's 1, 2, 3. Just a minute, I've got an awful feeling that I'm not recording. And so that's it, that's the finished item. So it's just that round really where you're starting off this second round, and then it was the second round. It's just those couple of little details are not quite right. And then we haven't even talked about blocking or anything yet. I don't know if this pattern's going to call for blocking. So that's your first hexagon and your second one. Really different, it's much closer together, much more lacy. So yeah, the pattern's not perfect, but it's doable. Will be difficult for a beginner though. Okay, so we'll see what happens when the next one comes. Okay, thanks for joining me and I'll see you soon.